Hey, mi gente. Welcome back to Latina Mic Drop. I'm Miriam Simon, and today's episode is one I've been waiting my whole life to record. My guest made a film 10 years ago called Being Eñye. You might have seen it, you might have cried through it, and after every single screening, she stood in what she calls the line of secrets and dreams, listening to hundreds, then thousands of Latinas whisper the same fear. I can't because you know what they will say. Now she's turned that decade of listening into a book. What will they say? And we are on a mission, all of us, to make her a New York Times bestseller. This is not a spectator sport, familia. Get your copy, tell your amiga, we're going all in. Please welcome the filmmaker, speaker, and author redefining what it means to be a good Latina, Denise Soler Cox. Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Latina Mic Drop Podcast. I am here today with someone who I am getting the chills just not even introducing and saying her name. And we are on a mission because we want to make her a New York Times bestseller. Okay, so we have to go all in, all of us, everybody who's listening, everybody who's out there, and we are going all in. We need all the Latina power that we can possibly get. And I am here with no other than Denise Soler Cox. Denise, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I could not be more excited to be on your podcast. I was like just doing the happy dance when you invited me. And I just want to say to you from the bottom of my heart, thank you for inviting me and for being on Team New York Times bestseller list. It means the world to me. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you. This is your home outside of Denver. Whenever you want to come to New York and New Jersey. And listen, the good thing is that we can meet online. I want to ask you, before we talk about the book, who is Denise Soler Cox? When nobody is asking about your accomplishments, your resume, or what you've built.
I mean, somebody who cares about being an incredible mom and someone who cares about being an incredible wife and not in a how can I serve my husband very traditional role kind of way. I mean, how can I be a great friend and spouse to the man that I committed to spending my life with so that we can have an amazing family? That has always been my biggest priority. And it remains something that I would hope, especially with my girls, when I'm gone someday, for them to say, wow, I had one of those moms that made me feel really loved and supported. That'll be worth everything.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I love that. And how long have you been together?
We've been together for 20 years in October. And so 20 years is our wedding anniversary. And I think we were together for like 2 years before that. I always forget the actual dates. And the only reason why I remember that this is the 20 is because I've met a few people that were married the same year. And I'm like, oh my God, this is 20 years, babe.
I love that.
Because I tend not to count.
How amazing that is to be with somebody 2 decades. I'm also celebrating 2 decades with my wife this September. So I completely understand what you mean about having a partner who's a real partner to you and loving them the way they need you to love them and back, and it's a real partnership, right? Not in that subservient way that we were taught, but in a real partnership way. So I love that.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations to you too. So now your book is called What Will They Say? For so many Latinas, me included, que dirán, can feel like an invisible person sitting at the table making decisions with us, right? Is the evil person over here wearing red probably or something, right? So when did you first realize how much that question had shaped your own life?
It's funny. I don't think I realized it so much until I was in conversation with other people. So I made a film called Being Eñye, and it's about the diaspora. It's about the tension between not feeling enough American enough, or in my case, Puerto Rican enough. And that film came out 10 years ago and screened for years and years. And after the screenings, people would wait online to talk to me. And I called that line the line of secrets and dreams, because a few things happened on that line. One was people would share dreams with me, like, oh my God, I want to make my own version of a movie. I want to write a book. I want to whatever, right? I want to move across the country. I want to, fill in the dream. And many of them would say, when I say, well, why aren't you doing it? Or what's stopping you from doing it? Or let me support you to do it. They would say, well, I can't because get it on, like I can't because what they'll say, because, and that was like always the reason. And then I started thinking about my own life. And even though I had transcended that, what will they say, right? To get the film done, I still suffered with it myself, and I started seeing it like mirrored back to me. And that's why I feel so strongly that healing happens in community, because we really see ourselves in each other. And when we can see that, we realize A, we're not alone, and B, something more is possible. That's where that all began, when I started realizing that I was seeing myself, holding myself back in the same ways that the women who were sharing with me were holding themselves back. And that's when I realized someone's going to do something about it.
And that's incredible that you were able to see yourself in those people, right? Like as a mirror, they were reflecting back to you their own experiences, but then you were thinking to yourself, wow, like how did this affect me too? Is that what's happening to me? I am wondering, like, so what kind of questions did you have as those people were coming to you? Like what curiosity did you have?
They were telling me, well, you know what they'll say about this and about that. And I started thinking about my own aspirations. And so the film that I made was an independent film. I did make it with a very successful Oscar nominated producer, but we still had the same barriers, right? We still wanted to get into the film festivals. We still wanted to sell the movie ultimately to one of the known outlets that broadcast films and television shows. We still wanted those things. And I found myself putting a limit on my own dreams as to how big this could get. So I had maybe we'll win an Academy Award dream, right? The one that's like a million miles away, or feels like that anyway. But then there was all these other ones, like get into lots of film festivals, win awards at those festivals, sell the film to Hulu or Apple or HBO. I literally hit the ceiling on my own belief for what was possible with the film. And I would say if there was a bigger, that was the biggest question I was asking myself. Like, just because I made it doesn't mean that I don't have this in common with them. And that's when I started seeing how powerful it would be if I just shared that truth with them. Because sometimes with making a film, it just seems so opaque. It seems so like, how the heck does something like this happen? Everybody knows it probably costs a lot of money. But then it's like, how did you get the interviews? How did you hire all the people? How did you edit it? I mean, so many people thought that I edited the film myself. I'm like, I didn't do that, but like all the hows, right? Those are the things that seem to stop a lot of people. And then they put me in a separate category as them, when I just had like the guts to say, I will do this somehow, some way, and then literally turn myself over to the making of it, and found somebody that actually did know the how. But when someone put space between me and them, like someone, maybe put me on a pedestal a little bit, which I didn't belong there, then they think that I can do something that they can't, which is just absolutely not true. And so the decision for me to be honest about my lived experience, my feelings about these things, expressing and sharing my own self-doubt, I found to be the needed thing. Like we're all hungry for the truth. We're all hungry to know, am I different than you really, or are we the same? And me deciding to be honest about my own struggles was an active decision to let you know that we are the same. And if we are the same, then there's no difference between me and you and what we can accomplish.
Right. And I think a lot of people do put other people on a pedestal and do think that they can't reach those same levels. And I loved a part of your book that when you mentioned that you reached the bottom of your next level, right? Like
Thank
that
you for
one's
saying that.
That one stopped me in my tracks, and I said, "Oh, dude, oh no, I'm at the same place. Like, I need to figure this out." Because I think so many of us get to that point and we reach and we think we're plateauing, and then it's like, wait, it's not working anymore, right? Whatever it is that we were doing isn't working. I love the fact that you talk about inherited cultural rules, like bájale dos rayitos. I've heard that a million times. Bájale. Mimi, you too loud. Mimi, bring it down. You don't talk about those things, right? Los trapos sucios se lavan en casa, right? Meaning don't take it outside of the house. Like, which rule has been the hardest one for you personally to break? And what did breaking it cost you?
Well, I guess we'll see what it cost me because that's still pending. I guess I'm willing to pay the price though, 9 days out from the launch. But definitely Los Trapos Sucios. And that's why I opened up with that one, because that's the one that I heard the most on the road. And so I've done over 400 engagements in the last 10 years since the film came out, but most of them have been contained in an 8-year time frame. And then, of course, there was about a year and a half for the pandemic where everything was happening virtually and there was no line of secrets and dreams virtually. Nobody waited in any kind of line. No one would dare say any of these things in an email or in a DM, which I thought was interesting, but many hundreds, thousands of people shared with me face to face. And I cannot tell you how many people said, well, los trapos sucios, or I can't do this because, que dirán, or what will they say? Or, we're not allowed to take this stuff, or I can't write this book about my mom. Someone said at a screening, I'm waiting for my mother to die so I can write a book about her. And like, she wasn't the first person. Okay. Like, she was the daughter of a woman who was incarcerated and she wanted to tell her story, but she felt afraid to do it because that was crossing this taboo. Like, you're not allowed. Well, that was actually crossing two taboos. The first one was you don't talk about this. You don't talk about family business, that stays at home. And then the second, she wanted to share about her own lived experience having a mom who was incarcerated, but that would make it about her. And we're not allowed to make it about us. We have to always keep it about everybody else. We're not allowed to stand out. And that is a huge infraction in our community. I went over about 10 of the taboos in the book, but really each chapter, there are at least 3 or 4 other, I would say, like B-sized ones that are still taboos, but maybe not as big as the big one that I opened up with.
Yeah. And that is so incredible that so many people are waiting for that comfort level, right? Before they begin to talk about what's real to them and their own experience, right? That's why I started my business too, because I wanted them to say, me see my yes, and honor themselves and their experiences. And I get people who ask me all the time, like, how is it that you can talk about what happened to you? And I'm like, that is so amazing that to me, it's incredible that they even have to ask the question. And
Yes.
and so many people also, like for me, my wife and I actually felt more comfortable being ourselves around our families when certain people did pass away, when certain
Interesting.
people were no longer in our lives anymore, right? So the que
Yeah.
dirán is ingrained in so many different things that we do, right? It's like in the our relationships, who we marry, who we live with, how we raise our kids, the work that we do, the work that we don't do, the breaks that we decide to take, right? Like, that's what I'm hearing over and over and over again. It's really, really something else.
Yeah.
Ay,
And,
ay, ay.
something to add there, a thought when you were talking, like, be the person, like, wouldn't it be terrible if you were the person that someone, like, that you had to die so somebody else would feel comfortable?
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
let's be that non-judgmental person that's
Yes.
alive, that makes people feel loved and accepted. That is the aspiration. And then the other thing that you said that I thought was really powerful was how many people ask you and why is it so surprising that someone would have to ask you, why are you comfortable sharing the truth about your life? And to me, that's an indication that of the awareness of these taboos. But we don't have the language for them. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
we
Yes.
don't, we can't even articulate, and this is no fault of our own, but they're so ingrained that we can't even externalize it and say, wow, that's such a taboo. Like, how did you transcend that? Like, that's not how it comes out. It comes out like, why are you so comfortable? Because you and I both know you're not supposed to be, you know? And
Exactly.
like,
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not supposed to be talking about my relationship with a woman, right? I'm not supposed to be
right.
talking about how much I love her and how we're raising kids together, right? Like that kind of stuff. We weren't even supposed to be married, right? So like when you have all these things, imagine, right, being raised that way and then unable to be yourself and unable to be your whole self. That's why I love your book,
Thank
because
you.
you talk about those things and you're bringing awareness to those people that may not see it, right? Like it's those blind spots that we're going through life figuring out those cultural norms that we are accustomed to, that we didn't realize were getting in the way of where we're headed and where we're going, because the reality is our opportunities are way different than those of our parents. They needed to do it in a different way for their survival. And now we are transcending and we are moving forward into different ways. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, right? There's a difference between loving our culture and obeying every rule we inherited from it, right? And we're chatting about it right now. How do we honor where we come from without allowing culture to become a cage?
Yeah. So here's the thing, like the best example, and if anybody has a better one, let me know, because I feel like I'm going to be using this over and over, because to me, it's exactly like an upgrade on a phone. Like, you know how you have to plug in your iPhone or whatever phone you have to plug it in. And then that's when you're going to get the new upgrade with all the new, whatever, all the new
Yeah.
improvements. They don't
Yeah.
drastically change the phone and the mechanics, how the phone works. They just make improvements because there are bugs. They fix bugs, right? And so we
Yes.
all know we got
Yes.
to plug it in, and then overnight it happens and we wake up with that new phone. So I love the culture. I'm obsessed with my Latinidad. I love that my work is specifically made by and for Latinas. This is my comfort zone, and this is where I choose to exist, right? And that my work resonates outside of the community and my comfort zone. It's like going to a Puerto Rican restaurant when any other type of food is available, right? I'll choose going to a Puerto Rican restaurant because that's my favorite food, period.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and there are some rules, some beliefs that are like bugs now. And it's exactly like what you just said. Our parents had a different playing field. They had different circumstances, different situations that lent itself for them to make different choices and decisions. And really what they wanted, right, best case scenario was the best for us. They wanted us to live in a modern world with all kinds of opportunities that the education that they prioritized for us could buy. And so that's the life we're living today. And unfortunately, women especially bump up against a lot of the norms and expectations from last generation, the generation before that, and the generation before that. Those bugs have not been upgraded. When someone reads my book, or the whole purpose of the book is to debug the system. So it's, let's keep what works. Let's keep, I mean, on a very surface level, like the food, the music, but also let's keep our fascination and the way that we value
Yes.
community. Let's keep the way how
Yes.
passionate we are, like inherently are taught to be. Let's keep the love expressed. Let's keep the I can't contain my enthusiasm that so
Mm.
many of us have been able to embrace, right? But when it comes to some of these traditional roles, or toning ourselves down, or you know what, making it about us sometimes, because sometimes it does need to be about us, and various and sundry things, especially this idea that all things that happen within a family should stay there at the expense of someone's mental health and ability to be successful in the world. Those things need to go. But it's not until we read the book and experience the book in relationship, because that's my invitation. This book really is at its best when read in community, and at the very least shared with at least one person. That could be your spouse, your best friend, your prima, your mom, your therapist, but the book is going to agitate something. There's many people that have read it that have actually told me I had to put it down because it triggered something within me. And when they say that, that's the good news. It means it's doing its job, right? And the invitation is, when you're ready, pick it back up again. But at the point of triggering, that's when you need to talk to somebody, because something in your past is ready to be healed, is how I like to look at it. And if you feel up for that healing, that's when you begin to do the work. What does the work look like? Talking, sharing, writing, and being willing to transcend and get past the barrier. That's what healing generational trauma really looks like.
There's so many high achieving women out there, and so many people who are first generation out there who are living their life and are experiencing this every single day. And by this, I mean the triggering part. This is what I love about the book. What I love about the book is that it will resonate with wherever you are in your story. Because we're first generation and we're in corporate America. We're now figuring out how to, talk about our stuff at the therapist, which a lot of people don't do, right? Still, but many are beginning to go on that journey. And then you're starting to want to figure out, right? Like, who is best equipped to answer these questions? And when you do that, you need a foundational book like this, right? So that you can begin to see the correlation between what you're going through, what the trigger is, why it may be happening going back, because you've done the work for us. That's the best part. I love the fact that you've done the work for us. You've done it because you've been on 400 stages, right? You've had, like you said, thousands of people. I mean, I can imagine. I don't know how many views you had on Eñye, but I was one of those first viewers. And back then, a decade ago, right?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And you've done the work. So this is a great opportunity for people, like it says at the top, a liberating guide for Latinas. Right? This is what we need in our community to be able to work into breaking those cycles that we are already doing. But we need the work that you have done in partnership, like you said, in community, so that we can move on to the next thing and what's ready for us to come, because the future is so bright at this point.
It is. Yes.
Yes.
It is. And the future is Latina.
Yes, exactly. The future is Latina 100%. And so let's talk a little bit about good Latina and how that shows up. How do you address that in the book? Because I know that's something that a lot of us, me included, have had to fight that dragon of being a good Latina and what a good Latina looks like.
Yeah, well, I would say that it's the most powerful exercise in the book. And it's very simple. A good Latina in my family would never. And then you fill in the blank. And I will be honest with you, it's very hard for some people to even pick up the pen and put the pen to paper. And if they're willing to put the pen to paper, they may grapple with being fully honest. And if you can be fully honest and just burn that piece of paper when you're done, just do the exercise for 5 minutes, right? And you will see a correlation between what you wrote and where you feel stuck in your life in all the areas, but especially at work and absolutely in relationships. I mean, because what else is there, right?
Right.
And so that's the thing, is we compartmentalize as human beings, as I would say, successful, ambitious Latinas. There's no way that we can reach a certain level of success without being good compartmentalizers. Because if we're successful in the current corporate America model, then we have learned to take our collective dominant family first, group first way of looking at the world and put it on the shelf, so that we find success in the self-reliant, all about me way that corporate America is designed. Okay. That is a huge conflict, and I address it in an entire chapter in the book. We are professional compartmentalizers, and sometimes doing that is a great skill to get through the day. Let's say if the worst happens, someone that you love passes away, but you still need to get through the day. Having the skill of compartmentalizing is actually very advantageous. And so it works sometimes. Or let's say you have young kids and you have a conference call, being able to, figure out what your kids are going to do while you're on the conference call, that's compartmentalizing, sorting out how multiple things can happen at once that might be competing for your time and energy. That's a good skill. And the other side of that is that we can forget that we compartmentalized our own identities. And that is what the book touches on when we go through that exercise of a good Latina daughter in my family would never, in my case, move away from family, right? For my own sanity. Like that puts me away from everybody, all the source material, right? Like that's like the immediate family is like the source material. And so I pulled myself away and felt for many years like I paid the price of that. And, that's the other side to it. But I didn't know what was going on. And so like how that shows up at work is I don't really feel like I'm a part of things, or I feel like I don't know if I want to participate in that because that will just get me too close to the middle of things. And I don't like being in the middle of things. I like being away from the middle of things. And so we can start seeing how our behavior as good Latina daughters affects our behavior at work. And we could go really deep. The book goes really deep into this, but there's quite a cost. We can see that, but we have to pull ourselves away from it. And so, we live our lives. We wake up, we do the thing, we go to work, we come home. Reading the book, doing this exercise helps pull ourselves, like untether ourselves from the belief system. And then we can look at it and have a relationship with it outside of the actual existing within it. And that's when we can change it. But it is hard. It's hard to see the things that we believe, especially the things that we believe that are to our own detriment.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And me being a Latina in corporate, right? It is something that I was used to doing. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't mention having kids because I didn't want to be the person that was looked at as less than because, or less responsible because that had actually happened to me before, right? Or the person who didn't mention I was married to a woman just so that I could not have any judgment or perception of what I was, right? Or who I was and how I couldn't do the job because of that part. And it's amazing to see how people do carry in those thoughts from home that you bring culturally into the workplace. Then you realize you become that person who is self-reliant and loses that community piece, right, in the workplace, because that's what works in corporate America. And so then when you don't have that other thing, you're like, wait, I'm one person here, I'm one person there. And then you're kind of like, who the heck am I after a while? Because you've been living by those rules for so long that this is a great way to bring you back to it. And when you come from a place of wholesomeness, where you can bring your culture with you and you can also sort of be successful in whatever it is that you're thinking of, right? And you don't have to code switch. You don't have that tiredness feeling of always trying to put on a mask or figure out which mask to wear. It's like performing. And that's what I love about this. And for those of you that don't know which one of these taboos is the one that maybe you're more prone to, Denise has a great quiz that you can also take as part of getting the book. You can find out which one of those is the one that you're more prone to. I know for me is the que dirán for sure. I can always hear my mother judging me. One part that was very important for me was that exactly what you're saying, and this is why I'm bringing it up, because I want people to see that you will find yourself in this book and you will find what's going on. I was criticizing my daughters for asking for what they wanted. And your story about your mom and how you were home and you were thinking about you wanted to be taken care of, and your voice wasn't really heard. I recognized and I started looking at my relationship with my daughters, and I began to think like, man, I've been trying to make this so different from me and them, but I realized I was doing the same thing without even noticing that I was doing the same thing, right? I'm like, oh my God, all these years that my daughters had voiced their opinion, I was looking at it like it was being disrespectful. as opposed to them really saying to me, mom, I want this, or I need that, or it was like the way that they were bringing it to me felt different, and I had to, that right there just changed the way that I deal with my daughters and talk to my daughters and communicate with my daughters. So thank you for that,
Oh my
because
gosh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, there's so
Wow.
much in the book that I think is going to really transform and transcend where we're headed in community. I love this book so much, Denise. You have
Thank
no
you.
clue how much it was
Oh,
so helpful. So yeah, so now imagine there's a Latina listening, right? Who already knows exactly what she wants to do, but the first thought in her head is, what is my family going to say? What do you want her to do next?
well, this is how I would literally, the first question I would ask her, or the thing I would ask her to entertain is, let's say they love it and you're wrong, right? What would be the thing? Like, let's say like you're wrong, like we can all be wrong, right? I actually have a really great example that I do from the stage with those cookies, those like
Tin
Danish
cookies?
cookies that we all
Yes.
yeah, like, and I use it as an example because I think it's the perfect example, because most times people will be like, yeah, but there are no cookies in there. Like, I'll, like, from the stage, I'll say, what's in here, to like an audience of thousands, right? And people will start yelling like, scissors, pictures, and there'll always be somebody that says no cookies, like this disappointed like 10-year-old, like that was like this early trauma. And like we all have it, like, oh, we thought they'd be cookies, but then we realize a sewing kit is like the most popular answer.
Yeah.
And so the whole reason why I do it, and I bring a full tin of cookies every single time. And I always say, okay, who said no cookies? Come to the stage. And I say, listen, I'm going to use you as an example, because sometimes we can be wrong, and you were wrong here because there are cookies in here, and you take them, and always be reminded that sometimes you could be wrong. Right. And it's always this funny example, but I think all of us know we can be wrong. Right. As
Yes.
much as we're like, no, I know how she'll be. I know what she'll say. I know what they'll do. Well, maybe they can surprise us. Right. And so let's say you're wrong, and let's say they actually would be supportive. And let's say that there was a gal that I coached one time that she lived in LA, but she wanted to do an internship in Antarctica or something crazy. Like and she's like, Denise, I feel like if I accept this internship, or I don't want to even apply because I know what my parents will say. And I'm like, but what if they were supportive? And she's like, no, 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 right? And so she did end up applying and not getting in. But her whole thing was, if I leave them, they will
Yeah.
judge, right? She was living in LA. And then she wrote to me and said, oh my God, I didn't get into the Antarctica, but I did get the one at the Smithsonian in DC. And I'm like, but what did you decide? Are you writing to me from DC right now? And she said, yes. And so she was able to listen to what she wanted, right? And
Yes.
I don't know how many parents wouldn't be super proud of their daughter working in an internship in the Smithsonian. I mean, even the most conservative and traditional, I mean, if they understood what a big deal that was, they would be proud. And here's the thing, even if they weren't, even if they disagreed with her, how important, we all know how important that internship was to her, and that would be an incredible stepping stone. I'm not sure where she is. I have to reach out to her, but my guess is that is probably 3, 4 jobs behind her now. And
Yeah.
also that it opened so many doors that and ultimately that's what our parents wanted for us. They
Yes.
came here for a better life. They came here for more opportunities for us. And that is the lived out experience of that. And if that means that a Latina has to choose herself and feel alone momentarily and feel uncomfortable, so be it. The thing that this Latina listening needs to know is, you are not alone. And that's time to get into community with other people who are taking the same type of risk, because we're out there.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. And so many people do miss out on those opportunities, right? Not even asking the question. Because that's
Yeah.
another one. That's another one, right? It's like, I don't want to even ask. Like, I feel weird asking, right? Like my grandpa would say, no andes de pidichi, hija, no andes de
Uh-huh.
pidichi. Meaning don't go asking for all kinds of stuff out there, right?
Oh, you mean
But
like asking for the big thing, asking for the big
yeah,
opportunity, or what?
like just asking. He'd be like, don't ask for this, don't ask for that. Like, just be good and just do, right? But that's not the
Hmm.
reality of life. Like, in order for you to get what you need and want, like we say out here, closed mouths don't get fed,
Yep.
right?
Yes. And
Exactly.
nothing happens without that. And as a matter of fact, I believe, I mean, the day I decided that I was going to do whatever it took to make the movie, it's not like everything fell on my lap. I had to be willing to be so uncomfortable over so long, such a long period of time, and ask so many people for things. You have no idea. And it's going back to what you said, being willing to exist at the bottom of your next level. It is not comfortable. Most of the people there are more successful than you, make more money than you, and have been doing it longer than you. But guess what? You're still at the next level. And hanging out with those people is going to give you everything you want. But the discomfort for some, especially when it's tethered and tied and tangled up with cultural things, it feels like it's too much. But I promise you, it's not. You can absolutely exist there and grow from there. And it takes an inner sense of agency and belief in self like
Yes.
you've never believed before. But
Hmm.
you can get support. Support is out there. That's a
Yes.
huge thing to know.
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of people sometimes they think that they don't have that support, but you'd be surprised who says yes to you, because I've been asking a lot and I'm like, wow, they actually said yes. Okay. I'm like, oh, that felt good. That felt good. And that builds the confidence, right? That's what builds the ability to continue to keep going. Huh?
Yeah, I think what you just said, like being surprised of how many people will say yes, I just want to point out that who we believe, and I'm going to include myself in this as well, who we believe we are and who we really are, like to other people, sometimes can be vastly different as on any given day, right? Like if my menopause symptoms have gotten to me on some days, I am surprised and shocked at how impactful some people believe that I am, right? When I'm in my full power, maybe it's a little bit closer to how people perceive me. But so, like on any given day, there's a gap. And we need to understand that it's only in the asking do we realize how much the world wants to say yes to us. And I'm not being Pollyanna. I really am saying that sometimes we have a very gross, distorted view of ourselves as
Yeah.
not impactful, not important, not worthy, and even
Yeah.
broken. When to other people, we're like an answered prayer.
Yeah. So true. That is absolutely 100% true. Oh my gosh. Well, I wanted to talk to you in reference to the pre-orders and how the pre-orders matter now that you counting down. Now we
Yes.
are in countdown. We are in full ask mode and we are in full pre-launch mode.
Yeah.
Tell me why those pre-orders matter.
Yeah, so just this past week, I went on an annual trip. My whole family goes on an annual trip up to the mountains, and we spend that time in the mountains with three families. We're one of them, and there's a ton of kids. We do a lot of outdoor activities. We make food. I made empanadas and rice and
Ooh.
beans, and anyway, it's so much fun. We all pack into the same house and have a wonderful time. And the topic of pre-orders came up, and my girlfriend said, wait, what are you talking about pre-orders? Like, she didn't know. She's a reader. She's not in the world of publishing, writing. But she is a reader and she is my friend and a supporter. And she had no idea that when people take the time to pre-order a book, it's literally like voting for this book that's not even on the shelves yet. And that
Right.
vote counts so, so much. I'm not saying after the book comes out that the vote of buying the book doesn't count. And the pre-order vote is a little more important. It tells the publisher this book is worth ordering more books. And in the case of my book, it's coming out 1 month before Hispanic Heritage Month. And so my goal is to have 3,500 books pre-ordered by the time my launch week ends, which is August 23rd. And so if your listeners are excited by this conversation, I feel like, Miriam, we have just explored the tip of our pinky nails. Like
Yes.
the book is deep, There's lots of stories. I chose the stories that I shared because those are the ones that I heard the most. And I shared my own version of the stories. I didn't share anyone else's versions. I shared my own versions of those stories. And so it's going to feel like you're reading a narrative, maybe a memoir even, but it's going to have practical tips on how to handle some of these very sticky, tangly situations that I have also found myself in and that I know that you have as well. And so my uncomfortable ask is that if you are able to pre-order the book, that and just know that you are supporting this Latina author to getting to the New York Times bestseller list, because this is what also the New York Times looks at. How many people are excited about this book? How many people have bought it before it even hits the shelves? And that's how they determine that, by the pre-orders.
Yes. So all of you that know that you are pre-gaming, right? Like when you pre-game to go to the club, or when you pre-game, right? When you pre-game and you clean the whole house because the whole family is coming over, right? And you do the cleaning before the cleaning person shows up if you have that kind of money, right? This is what we're talking about, right? This is
Yes.
what we're doing. And you all know how to do it already, right? It's like my wife does that. I'm like, why are you clean? Why are you doing this, all this extra stuff? She's like, well, because everybody's coming to, oh my gosh. You know, and it's that. We already know how to do it. We already know how to get ready for when our family members are coming. So we are here to get ready. Put in your pre-orders right now, because this is when it counts, right? And it counts, and we're going to show that we are trending and that we are the Latina power. That I'm getting the chills saying this. like
Yeah.
like I'm really in it. Like I really believe in the book. I really believe in all the stuff that you have created. I really
Thank
believe
you.
in the way that it'll help our community. I really believe in how we are going to see the changes coming from everybody that is able to review this book and go through the book and find their practical ways of getting whatever it is that they need. There's so much in here that you can even go through it in chapters. Some people do that. Some people just look at a chapter and say, "Oh, this is the one that I want to read for now." Right? And this is what we're going to come together, right? Like when we do the quinceañeras, right? You go ask Tío and you go ask Tia, can you be padrino for the drinks? Can you be padrino for the alcohol? Can you be padrino for the hall, right? This is when the way we know how to work it, this is how we're going
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah. So this is how we're going to help Denise Soler Cox.
Thank
So,
you. Thanks so much.
yeah.
That just reminded me of something else I wanted to share. And you're going to meet her. At the launch in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend Rosalia, who you've seen on a few calls, she is coming in from Canada. She lives in
Nice.
Western Canada, and she's coming in for the live launch event at
Mm-hmm.
Word Up. And she said she's visiting family right now, and she said visiting her family in, I think it's Long Island. She's kind of like going down memory lane, and seeing, because when we're with family, a lot of stuff comes up, right? Especially as adults, and we come back and we're kind of treated in the same roles that we had when we said
Yes.
goodbye, which is
Yes.
really wild. And so she's having a relationship with herself and her family as this other version of her, and seeing different choices that she made, and realizing that she had agency when she didn't think she did, and she shared this morning, she was like, I just realized all these choices that I made because I didn't realize my own power. And she said, none of this would have been clear to me without reading chapter 5 in your book. But now I can see it. And so that is a huge piece of this, is like, a lot of times we'll go home or we'll visit the past with these, family get togethers, and we'll leave frustrated, hurt, deciding we're never going back, all kinds of stuff, right? And like trying to make sense of all that happened and not having anything to use as a translator, And
Right.
so reading the book will help. It's not going to help everything, but when it comes to the cultural taboos that have affected you, that you just don't have an awareness of, it will help in that area, I promise. And so I just wanted to also share, you also said this as well, it's in Spanish and it's in English. And this is also very unusual for a book to be in Spanish and English and released at the same time. So some people are telling me they're buying a copy for their mom and they're reading it. The mom reads it in Spanish, she reads it in English, and then they discuss. And then finally, it's also available in South America. So if you have relationships with people in other countries and, Spanish speaking countries, they're also able to buy it too. So we can strike up this conversation all over the world where it really needs to happen. So thank you so much for letting me say all that. I appreciate it.
No, I love it. I love it because that's exactly what I'm picking up. Word up. I am picking up the Spanish version.
No way.
Yes, because I have the English one, right? But I want the Spanish version because I can read and write in Spanish. My mom taught me how to read and write in Spanish. So I love to keep that practice. And every time I go out, people always ask, is your book in Spanish? So this is amazing because there's so many Latinos who that's their primary language, that they speak Spanish and their kids speak English. And that sometimes, right, like my kids can't speak Spanish to me. They can only speak English to me. But my mom would only understand in Spanish, right? So it's always good to have it in both languages because what resonates for them and for like the generations are going to be able to benefit from both. And I feel like that's what's really going to be helpful. And we speak in two language all the time. Like we're Spanglish every other word sometimes. So I love it. I love it. Well, I end the podcast on rapid fire questions really quick. Pearls or tattoos?
Yeah. Don't make me choose.
Okay, that sounds good. I like that. Heels, sneakers, or barefoot?
I would say barefoot.
Some advice you ignored but later realized was right.
Listen to yourself at any cost, at every cost. You always know what to do. Just listen to that.
Love it. Love it. This has been such a great episode. I'm so happy that we had this conversation, Denise.
Me too. Thank you so much, Mujer.
You're welcome. And all the best to you. And we'll have all the links in the show notes for everybody. So thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
That's the episode, mi gente. And if you felt even one of those taboos land in your chest, you're exactly who this conversation was for. Denise's book, What Will They Say, is out now in both English and Spanish. Grab a copy for yourself and honestly, grab one for your mom too. Read them side by side. Take them to your book club. Have the conversation you've been putting off. Links to the book, the quiz, and Denise's launch event are all in the show notes. And remember, we are going all in to get this book on the New York Times bestseller list. So if this episode moved you, share it, rate the show, and tag us. Until next time, honor your yes, listen to yourself at any cost, and I'll see you on the flip side. Take care.